Okay, so the question today is, how do we make a rule that will fire for the first event but not for subsequent events? So, the first thing I'm going to demonstrate here is if I look at my audit policy, you'll notice that I have this turned on for process termination and process creation. So what that means is if I come over to my monitor tab and I look at my laptop over here, when I launch calculator, there will be a executed task for calculator. So we're going to use that as the source of a rule going off. Now, in order to build that, I'm going to come up here and say new and rule. And we're going to do a process start. And in order to get the best correlation, I'm going to come back to my example event. And I see that my image file has calc.exe in it. So if I go to build and rules, process start, image file, is calc.exe, and we're going to give this a really annoying action to emulate some event going off and causing you to see lots of things. So I'm going to say send it to the detection IP and the source account, and the message is going to be alright, and we're going to give this a name. There we go, and we're going to enable this and save and activate. Alright, so what's going to happen is when I click on calculator, we should get a pop-up. There it is, calc launch detected. And if I start calculator a bunch of times, I get a stack of these warnings, which is obviously irritating. So in order to make this only fire once on a single event, my workaround that I found that works is if we create a group, and I already have one of these, so I'm going to come over here and say user-defined groups and calc starters. So right now this group is empty, but we're going to use this group to help with the rule. So I'm going to come back to rules, I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to say I want to have an action that if this happens, I want you to add to a user-defined group element. We're going to use my calc starters, and the thing I'm going to add in this case is the detection IP. And then to make it so the rule only fires once, we're going to say that the detection IP up here, user-defined groups, calc starters, is not in that group. So right now the group's empty, so no one's in that group. So we'll save and activate again. And now if I launch calculator, I should get my first pop-up here. But when I close that and keep launching calculator, I don't get the pop-up anymore. But we definitely see that those events are occurring and are getting recorded. Now, because I also have over here process termination being audited, I can theoretically build another rule. We'll say events, process stop, and I'm going to close a couple of these so I can see what a process stop looks like. There we go. So come back to monitor, program exited, and I see extraneous info has my reference to calc.exe in it. So So build rules. Process stop, where the extraneous info includes calc.exe. I'm only putting the star at the front because we saw from the example that it's only the end that's calc. There won't be anything after that, so I don't need to worry about it. Then we're going to say if the detection IP is in my list, this part's not really required, but it'll work. So if you are in my list, great. And the action is going to be to, once again, we're going to say send a pop-up message to that detection IP with that process. And the message is going to be okay. And the other part of this to help automate it is I'm going to have an action to remove user-defined group element from my calc starters. And the value we're going to remove is that detection IP that we added with the first rule. So now I'm going to enable that and save and activate. So right now, if I go look at my build groups in my calc starters, refresh the screen here, you'll notice that my IP and my host name has been added to the list. So if I come back to my rules and I stop calculator, I'm going to get calculator terminated. And the next time I stop calculator, I'm not in the list anymore. If I come back over here to build groups and refresh my list, see it's empty. So now if I stop this, because I'm not in the list, I'm not going to get a second pop-up. But if I restart calculator, I'll get the first pop-up. Yep. I don't get the subsequent pop-ups because I've been added back into the list. And the first time I terminate it, I will get the terminated pop-up. But I don't get subsequent ones because I'm out of the list. So that's one workaround to make a rule only fire once. You have it add it to a user-defined group, and you have the rule self-checking its own referenced group. At that point, you could either try and find a correlating event, like I did, the process stop, that removes it from the group, or you could have someone who logs in and cleans out that list on a regular basis. So if, for example, you wanted to have an event fire for some troublesome activity on the network, the LEM puts that IP address in a list. The rule is aware of that list and checks it like mine does. And then once you've resolved whatever the issue is, you go in and remove it from this list. So if it occurs again after you think you fixed it, the rule fires again. But until you fixed it, the rule shuts up. That's one way to do it. The other way to do this, which is harder to demonstrate, is if you turn up the number of correlation events. So if I say 10 in some span, under the advanced options over here, which I get to by clicking this little gear, there is this option. So it's time over threshold. So if it stays over 10 events within 30 seconds for, hours, don't reinfer for a day. Don't refire this rule for 24 hours. That'll work, but that option is only available if A, the events that you're triggering off of happen fairly frequently, because setting this events within for something like 30 hours would crash your LEM. It's a huge performance impact. And B, you have to be correlating multiple events as opposed to a single calculator start, which is sometimes not desirable. So those are two ways that you can cause a rule using either the advanced correlations or my little user-defined group add and remove. So to prevent yourself from getting spammed by, in my case, pop-ups, or maybe in your case, email messages or some other event. Hopefully that's helpful and makes the LEM better for you.